Hey photographer, Jessica Whitaker here, and in this video, I'm comparing the 50mm against the 85mm RF lenses. I've got side-by-side sample images to share. I'll also talk about the pricing and when I think each focal length is best used. So by the end of this video, you'll be empowered to make a decision about which lens you should buy. Video chapters are available if you want to jump around. I've used these lenses for portrait photography, and this past weekend, I photographed 2 weddings using these lenses, so I'm really excited to offer that perspective as well. One thing in this video I won't be talking about is the technical specs, so if you want that information, the lenses themselves will be linked down below. Thank you to KEH Camera for sponsoring this video. KEH is where you can buy, sell, trade in, and repair your used camera equipment, both film and digital. I'll talk more about KEH Camera later, but it's an amazing place to buy these lenses for significantly cheaper, like $1,000 off. I do want to mention that I'll be talking a little bit about EF lenses, which go with the DSLR cameras. But with EF lenses, you can purchase an adapter that allows you to shoot with an EF lens on a mirrorless camera. All that to say, I have that perspective to also offer in this video, so I can evaluate if the RF lenses are even worth it, or if you should just get an EF lens. If you want me to make a whole separate video comparing the two, I totally can, but let's get into right now when I use each focal length. With an 85mm, I primarily use this for portraits. In my opinion, the 85mm is the closest of what a person sees in the mirror. There isn't any distortion of their facial features like with a 50mm. You're gonna have a slight bit of that. With an 85, there is so much more separation between the subject and the background than a 50mm. I like using it with wide shots because it can create a painting-like effect, especially when you're shooting wide open. And because of that subject background separation, it can also make for a more commercial looking portrait, especially if you're doing something full body. A big reason why I love the 85 RF lens is because it is tack sharp for both the close-up portraits, but also the wide shots. So I'm gonna throw up right here some images that I took so you can see how the subject interacts with the background with a 50 versus an 85. Now for weddings, I use the 85 for portraits, but also in the bride or groom detail shots of their accessories for 1 or 2 elements. For example, the perfume and a lipstick. I'll use an 85 during the ceremony as well for the photos of the parents in the seats because I'm able to zero in on 1 or 2 subjects. Lastly, I'll also use the 85 for reception details where there again are 1 or 2 elements that I want to highlight, similar to the cologne and lipstick. So usually this looks like the flower and a candle, and it's not even about having that very shallow depth of field where your aperture is at 1.2 or 1.4. It's more about that background subject separation, so it can create a really beautiful, dreamy little detail shot. Moving on to the 50mm and when I would use this focal length. I believe that every photographer should have the 50mm focal length in their kit, whether it's a high-end lens like the 50 RF 1.2 we're talking about today, or a more affordable option like the nifty 50mm 1.8 that's under $200. The 50mm focal length is very versatile, and it's something that I suggest to people who are just starting out in photography. They have the camera, but they want a lens. Go with a 50mm. You're going to be able to create beautiful portraits with it, wide shots, group photos, nature photography. You're gonna be able to stretch it a few different ways. With a 50mm, it is a wider lens than an 85mm, so you can capture even more of the background in the shot. With the 50mm for wedding photography, I will use the lens for reception, the overall table scape. I'll also use it for the bridal party photos. I'll use this lens for the overhead flat lay shots of the details and for those ceremony details shots before guests are in their chairs. A wide shot of the archway, flowers next to the chairs, that kind of thing. With wedding photography, I rotate between the 85, the 50, and a zoom lens, the 24 to 70. When it comes to wedding photography, I could not just have one or the other. I use all three lenses. Let's talk about pricing. The RF lenses are very expensive. However, if you are open to buying secondhand, you can get lenses for significantly cheaper. And the best way to buy used camera equipment is through KEH Camera. When you go through a social media marketplace listing or a third-party auction site, you are buying directly from the seller. And unfortunately, you can't always trust that what you're buying on those websites is what you're gonna get. KEH Camera is a legitimate place to buy used camera gear. They are the middleman who quality inspects and tests this gear to make sure that what you're buying is what you're actually going to get. And they have a very generous return policy of 180 days. Let's talk about the pricing. So for the 85mm RF, if you were to buy it new on Canon's website, you're looking at $2,800. I know these are really expensive. If you were to buy on KEH in like new condition, you're looking at $2,350. Still expensive, but you're still knocking off a few $100. Now, here is what I think is like the ultimate secret, but it's not because it's displayed on their website, but it's to buy in bargain condition, which the 85 comes out to $1,950. That's an $850 difference between new on Canon and bargain on KEH's website. On KEH's website, they have a quality rating system. Once the lens has been thoroughly quality inspected, it is then tested and then transparently ranked on the website. The system can go all the way from basically brand new all the way down to bargain, with everything in between being the same picture quality. It's just the lower you go on the quality scale, the more cosmetic wear and tear you might see. If you were to buy the 50mm new off Canon's website, you're looking at $2,300. If you opted to buy secondhand from KEH Camera in excellent condition, so you're at the top of the quality tier ladder, you're looking at about $1,700. But if you were to go for the bargain, you can get this lens for $1,300. That's a $1,000 difference. KEH Camera will be linked down below, as well as coupon codes. Even if you're not in the market to purchase something right now, it's good to bookmark and have in the back of your head for when you do decide. Now let's get into sample images. YouTube video quality is not always the best for displaying image quality. It's in a blog post on my website that I will have linked down below. Let's get into it. I want to share with you my personal overall thoughts. Amazing news with both of these lenses. I have not seen any chromatic abrasion, which is that magenta border around your subject, or sometimes it will be around a tree, which I do get that pretty significantly with my EF lenses. The biggest thing I noticed, and this was in the behind the scenes footage, is that the 50mm RF lens was much softer than my 50mm EF lens. And it's crazy because the EF lens, the older lens that isn't even designed for the mirrorless, is sharper. For that $2,000+ price point, I expect it to be as sharp as the 85 is. I don't think the difference is going to be noticeable to a client if you are delivering social media resolution images or medium resolution images, where someone can print them up to about 8 by 10. You as a photographer will notice the difference when you are actually photographing, you're gonna get more precise focusing, but the end result to a client's eye is going to be the same. If you do in-person sales, which means you sell to a client albums and art prints, then yes, you are going to need that newer technology, because if you were to blow up a photo on your wall, you want that photo to be razor sharp, the highest quality, whether it is a small wallet print or it's going to be blown up for above their fireplace. And here's the thing, especially when it comes to these high ticket packages like wedding photography, or if you're doing in-person sales, when a client is investing a significant amount of money into photography, they expect exceptional results. I get that money is relative, but to me, in Seattle, Washington, with one of the higher cost of living in the country, if you're charging more than, let's say, $5,000 for a wedding, your equipment must deliver the best possible image quality. And unfortunately, that is not always going to be possible when it comes to using those lower tier lenses. Like a 50 nifty, your equipment is a tool in your toolkit, but sometimes it's important to upgrade once you know you're at that spot in your business. So which should you buy, the 85 or the 50? I have three different circumstances. Circumstance one, if you're a photographer who already has EF lenses, but you've recently upgraded to mirrorless and you want to add one RF lens, if you're a portrait photographer, I would say go for the 85mm. Circumstance number two is if you have no lenses, you're buying a camera for the first time, buy yourself the 50mm. It is going to be the most versatile, so you can get a variety of different shots and photograph different subjects. But if you're like, wait, the 85 does sound really appealing, check out the 85mm 1.2 RF lens. This is the budget option, and I've got a video comparing the 85 1.2 against the 85 1.8. That video will be linked in the description box below. Circumstance number three, this is kind of the dream scenario for most. If budget is not a problem for you, all of your credit cards are paid off, you are financially in the standing to go all in, I definitely suggest to get both. You will use both lenses. If you're still feeling unsure, maybe you have a special circumstance, the best place to ask for help about anything photography related, whether it's gear or business questions, is my free Facebook group called Build and Bloom. There's over 60,000 kind, encouraging, and inclusive photographers, so you'll not just get my advice, but the advice from many different photographers at different stages in the game. Check out Build and Bloom on Facebook groups, and you can also listen to the Build and Bloom Photography podcast. This is where I go in depth about business tips to help you grow. Listen and learn wherever you get your podcasts. I believe in you and I believe in your business. Be sure to hit subscribe so you're the first to know when new free videos for your business come out, and I will see you in my next video. Click right here to watch and to learn. I'll see you there.